Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. Today, my guest is Jenny Melrose. Now, Jenny has two blogs. She is a lifestyle blogger, and she's the founder of the Melrose Family. And then she also has her own site, Jenny Melrose.com. And what we're going to talk about today is working with brands, strategies for getting brands to notice you, how to reach out, and how to really build that part of your business. So Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jillian, for having me. I'm so excited to get to share some of my little tidbits of trainings and things with your audience.
Perfect. Okay, so Jenny, will you tell us how you started?
Absolutely. My lifestyle site, the Melrose Family, has been up and running for 9 years. So
Wow.
I'm a little bit of a dinosaur.
Wow.
It started off just kind of as a hobby. I was a new mother and kind of lost myself and needed something to kind of have a creative outlet. I started writing, back then it was, this is what we did today and this is what we ate for lunch. And then it transitioned as I saw other bloggers and got into different communities, seeing that they were actually able to start making income, into making sure that I delivered content that solved problems and pain points for an audience. When the Melrose Family was started, it was prior to Pinterest and Instagram. So I've been able to kind of learn the strategies that work on social media as I've grown with those outlets. And then as I got further along in it, probably 3 years or so into it, I started making an income working with brands, where I would create content for them in exchange for a fee that I would charge based on my kind of influence that I had at that time.
Now, were these brands that were reaching out to you, and were you surprised, or were you strategic?
So when I first started, I didn't actually reach out to a ton of brands myself. I kind of sat in networks. Bloggers would let you know, oh, I'm in this network or that network. There's so many of them. There's Sway Group, Pollinate, Izea has one. TapInfluence used to be one that's now owned by Izea. But the way that the networks work is you apply and then you put in your social numbers, as well as like your analytics for Google, how many page views you're seeing for your traffic. And you also put in all of your personal information as far as how old are you, how many kids do you have, do you have any pets? So they can determine, are you a good fit for the brand that has come to them with a certain amount of money? And then they would hire you in order to create a sponsored post. I used the networks for quite some time, but the problem that I ran into is that it was like a needle in a haystack. There were so many bloggers. I wasn't standing out. So from year 3 to about year 5, I started honing in on my own strategy where I would pitch myself to the brands. I never saw 1 million page views. I think at the height of when Pinterest really was driving a ton of traffic, as well as Facebook, I was probably seeing about 700,000 page views, but have since been cut in half because of the algorithm change.
Totally. It's happened to all of us.
Yes. So because of that, I was never one of these huge bloggers that all the brands knew about and came flooding in to work with me via email. I had to really go out there and reach out to the brands that I knew, used, and loved to show why my audience would want to hear about their product. And that, from year 3 to year 5, it changed everything for me. At that time, I was also an inner city school district teacher.
Wow.
I was working full time, and I had a second baby and was miserable. Not because I didn't love the students that I had, but I never saw my kids. I missed out on everything, I felt like. So my sponsor post income actually took over for my teaching salary.
Wow.
And I was able to retire at 35.
Wow.
So.
Wow. I can't tell you, it's so funny because I think you are episode 40 or something like that. How many women have a very similar story to you? Many teachers, but many who start their blogs on a kind of as a way to make sense of their lives once they become mothers. like how to find meaning, how to hold on to a piece of themselves, how to be creative, when all you're doing is thinking about your kid not having a meltdown and what the right snack is to possibly solve that.
Right.
And then the fact that you've been able to learn and grow and figure out your niche, I'm always so inspired by that, because I do believe that when we start businesses, we don't know where they're going to take us. And for you, by being able to be savvy and go toward what was working, I mean, you were able to change your life.
Yes. No, absolutely.
And be there to solve the problem of being home with your children or being a much more present mom.
Yes. And now since having left teaching, we moved from New York to North Carolina. And I am now home with the girls. I'm able to put them on the bus. I'm able to pick them up and bring them to their different events, which I never got to do. And I started the other side of my business once we moved down here, which was the Jenny Melrose.com side. And I did it primarily because I knew what it was like to want to make this something, to make it a business, and not knowing who to turn to or what to listen to know how to move it forward.
I love that.
I wanted to be able to be that resource for other moms. And I honestly attract a ton of teachers because I'm very strategic in the way that I teach things. I'm very much a teacher, and it's given me that passion. I always loved to teach. I always loved my students. It was more the politics and that went on more than anything else for me. So being able to turn back into my love of teaching and now help these women make their blogs business. It's a passion for me.
And again, I think that there is something to, about building your business and learning along the way. Because Jenny, if I said to you, guess what, in 5 years or 10 years, here's how your life's going to be, you would never believe this.
Oh, no. Like if someone had said to me even 3 years ago when we first left New York, that I would be doing what I do now. I mean, I have spoken at probably 10 to 15 different conferences just this year. I have a podcast. There's so many different aspects of this that it has become just something that I love to be able to do. I never would have believed someone that that's what I was going to end up doing.
I love that. I do. Again, for us, for example, MiloTree, our second business, which, if you look at it, you'd be like, wow, that has nothing to do with Catch My Party, our first business. But we built MiloTree not because we thought it was a business, but because it solved a problem for us, for Catch My Party. It grew our social followers. And then we're like, wait a second, because I too feel very similarly to you, which is I want to help moms, entrepreneurs grow their businesses in as effortlessly as possible. And so we're like, hey, we could offer this as we could roll this out as a separate business and see what happens.
Yes.
And so again, my recommendation or my piece of advice, you can tell me what you think about this, is to just start growing your business and to be mindful of how it's growing, to see opportunities that you would never have thought were out there.
Yes. And not being afraid to take that risk. It takes courage, honestly, to do what so many of us do, because it is the wild, wild west.
It is the Wild West. Yes.
So being able to say, okay, I know the algorithms are going to change. I know that I'm going to have to be flexible. I didn't go to school for technology. Cell phones didn't exist when I was in college.
Yep.
But I'm going to make this work, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm just going to keep trying to push through that wall. I firmly believe that you do something where you start looking at who your audience is and understanding why they're coming to you and continuing to solve problems for them. It's a business. And once you start to treat it like a business, everyone else will too. And it can explode. It really can.
Yeah, I so agree. It's so funny because we are so like-minded in this way. So, okay, let's talk then about influencer marketing.
Okay.
Right? Which is, I decide I'm going to start my blog and I want to work with brands, and they're brands, we all love certain brands.
Yes.
And so how do I think about this as turning, let's say, my blog into a business?
So first thing to do is you're probably using products in your posts already. You're probably using a specific ingredient for a recipe or a particular type of decorating to put together a party, whatever it might be. Look at those brands and see who they are. If you're authentically using them, it's going to come across even to your audience when it is paid. Because a lot of the negative kind of connotation I think that comes from sponsored posts is, oh, you're selling out to be able to push their product. When in reality, it's a partnership. They see the value in your audience. So you're going to want to be able to put it out there for your audience and continue to grow and talk to them about that product. I always teach my audience, to bloggers that are looking to work with brands, look in your pantry. Go see what's in your linen closet. What are those brands that you're already buying and using so that you can really reach out to them and be authentic? You want to start with an email address. And then from there, it's just pitching yourself in a little bit, but really pitching your audience because that's what they care about.
Right.
And I think a lot of times when bloggers first start to reach out to brands themselves, they will forget that. They will think, well, it's all about me, what I can do, and what my social stats are. And that's where a blogger maybe that isn't as large, but maybe lives on a farm and can show the behind the scenes of the farm and any sort of like kitchen equipment she uses, it's going to connect with her audience. And because of that, that brand won't care as much about the page views. They'll care more about the audience that is engaged in interacting with her content.
So I would say this as a woman. Women in general have a hard time putting themselves out there and figuring out the story, that really shows them in the best light. And I'm wondering if there is, what you're saying is then by not focusing so much about how great you are, but focusing on how great your audience is, that could be a way in that seems less scary.
Yes. I'm actually in the middle. I'm doing some training right now I do a Pitch Perfect Live every 4 months where I do this free training. And we're in the middle of it. And the first 2 days we spent them really figuring out exactly what you said about how are you unique? What makes you? Because honestly, pitching is 50% confidence. 25% is then the follow-up, and the other 25% is the pitch that you send. But if you don't have the confidence to be able to send it and to be able to follow up with them, you're done. You have to really know and be able to articulate like what it is about you for yourself and be able to look at your business like a business so that when you send that email, you're not going to take it personally when they don't answer. Or you're not going to take it personally when they come back and say, hey, we don't have any money right now. And you're like, yeah, you do. You're Kellogg's or whoever it is that you pitch. You can't, you have to have really thick skin. And then what I teach is that you then turn it towards that audience so that it can kind of get the pressure off of you. But we start by really building up confidence because like you said, as women, we have a terrible habit of not being able to know what makes us different. I had a client that kept saying to me, my pitch is all right, it's good, but I don't know how to explain how I'm a little bit different. And I looked at her and I was like, I read through her pitch and said, well, how many kids do you have again? And she says, 10.
Ooh.
Looked at her and I said, and you homeschool them.
Oh,
That's what makes you different. You run a parenting blog and you have 10 children that you homeschool. Your audience comes to you because of who you are. They know that you have experience and then you're not just randomly pulling this out of wherever. It is personal learning from raising 10 children.
wow.
So,
Could we talk?
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I tend to interrupt. I'm so sorry. Could we talk about fake it till you make it?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's one of my favorite phrases, and it's something I've been saying this entire week, so I love it. Yeah, it's just when you have that confidence that you run a business and you are a powerhouse, you're not going to take anything kind of negative coming back as badly as you would if you didn't have that confidence. And a lot of times bloggers will say to me, well, I got pitched to work for a bag of granola. And I'll say, okay, well, is that granola something that's valuable to you for your time? Could you say that bag of granola is what you would get paid on a sponsored post for doing all the pictures, doing the social shares, everything that goes into it? If the answer is no, then you need to turn around and tell that company that, listen, I appreciate and I love your granola, but in order to keep the integrity of my site to my readers and any previous brands I've worked with, I only work on compensated content. And these bloggers that are newer will always come back to me and say, but Jenny, I haven't worked with any brands. How can I say that? And I'll look at them and say, but they don't know that. And they can go back and look through my content. No one is going to spend their time going back to see if you've done a sponsored post or not. So being able to just have that confidence to say to them, you know what? No, my time is not worth a bag of granola. I've built up this following. I have an audience of this size, and I deserve to get paid for my time, or I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, I've shared this previously. Once I became a mother, it looked like my confidence went up tenfold. But the reality was I got super busy. So a brand would come to me and say, we want to pay you X. And I would say, and I would think that was too low. So I'd double it or even triple it. And I'd go, yeah, sorry, here is my rate, here is why. And I'd write like the fastest email. And before I could even think about it, I would press send. Yeah. And if I didn't have my daughter, and she wasn't in diapers and it wasn't just a big hot mess at my house, I would have gone up into my head and I would have second guessed myself and I would have said, oh God, should I send this email? Maybe I shouldn't double my fee. Maybe I would have overthought it and I wouldn't have sent the email.
Yes.
So the fact that all of a sudden I had all these different priorities, and you know what? And then I've said this before too, I'd forget that I had sent that email. So if they didn't get back to me, I wouldn't remember.
Right.
And so it weirdly tricked me into being much more confident.
Right. And you valued your time. You knew that you only had a certain amount of time. And if you were going to put your time into doing a post, it was taking away from your daughter. And your time is valuable.
Yes.
And we all need to realize that. And I know that there's this kind of feel where I've watched a lot of bloggers like rip into new bloggers about don't work for free product. You're ruining it for all of us. And that's not true. If it's valuable to them where they would spend that time and if the product is a $300 blender and their price is normally $300, that makes sense to them. So not kind of looking down upon, but knowing what's valuable. A lot of times too, when you're first starting out to pitch and work with brands, sometimes they'll offer and say, it's kind of like a test run. And I wouldn't say to, even if you're a new blogger, to do a blog post for a bag of granola. It's not worth it. But I might say, do a social share, do an Instagram story. Yep. Yep. And then prove to them with that data that you're given inside Instagram that you're worth the price that you're asking.
Yes.
Rather than coming back, I've had bloggers that have told me, oh, I told her I couldn't pay my mortgage in granola. Can she? And I'm like, oh boy.
Ooh. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, not the best way to go.
I like that, but no, don't do that. I wanted to take a short break to talk about MiloTree. Now, if you want to be working with brands, you know that social media followers matter, but not just any sort of social media follower, an engaged follower. And that's why MiloTree is so cool, especially on a platform, let's say like Instagram. You are converting your site visitors into followers. And what better follower than somebody who's already been to your site, seen your content, knows who you are? Those are the followers you want. Those are the followers who will make you look great on social media. So if you sign up for MiloTree now, you get your first 30 days free. So go do it. And now back to the show. Wow. Okay. So we talk tactics.
Yes.
First off, you mentioned email. You said find their, email them. How do I find a brand's email address?
Such a good question. So you want to start by going to their website. And if you go up to the top tab, or sometimes it's even down in the footer, you want to look for something that says media or press releases. Once you get a press release, you want to pay attention to whatever product they're talking about, because it's probably a product that you should pitch to help them promote.
Yes.
But look down towards the bottom where it's signed from the PR person, and they're going to have their email address on that press release. That is the person that you want to work with. And a lot of times bloggers will come back to me and say, but it's not Kellogg's that's on there. It's some weird PR company. Every brand, for the most part, unless they're teeny tiny mom and pop brand, is using a PR company. You're never working directly with that brand. Yes. But that PR company is your gatekeeper that is going to be the one that you want to talk to. Now, sometimes you can't find an email address. They don't make this easy. I actually had someone today ask me, well, isn't there just a list of all the toy brand emails? And I'm like, girl, are you crazy?
Right.
Everyone would be pitching. No. So if you can't find an email address, what we've actually seen huge results with is doing an Insta story. Because what happens is, let's say you take a picture of that, whatever the brand is that you're trying to reach out to, and you say something cute about how you love it, and you tag them in your Insta story, it goes right into their DMs.
Yep.
Now, when they give you a little heart for having put up that Insta story, you're going to immediately reply to them and say, hey, I love your product. I'd love to get the email address for the person on your team that works on blogger or influencer campaigns.
I love that strategy. I always recommend Twitter because, again, brands are listening. Yes. But I hadn't thought about doing it with Insta stories.
So Twitter was actually the way that I started out teaching this, because I've had Pitch Perfect Pro now. It has been open for 2 years. And originally it was Twitter-based. But then Insta stories came out, and we saw the results are just so much quicker, because all the brands want you on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you're not going to be able to work with a brand at this point. Yep. And it goes to direct message, which the problem is with Twitter is that you can put out a tweet, but it's out there, and then you need them to follow you in order to do a message. Yes. So it's just a couple extra steps. This is so much easier.
That is brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Do you have a let's say I found the email address.
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation for a subject line that will get your email opened?
Such a good question. So a lot of times bloggers will want to put blogger influencer collaboration or something like that. I tell them, what makes you stand out? What makes you different? So if you have an Instagram account that has 300,000 followers, you're going to put Instagram influencer with 300,000 followers collaboration up in your subject line. Or if you do hands and pans and you have a huge Facebook page, you're going to put that in the subject line. A lot of times people will rely on social media to kind of say what makes them unique, but you could also mom of 10 parents.
I was going to say, yep.
Yes, that's exactly. You want to kind of try to stand out, because those blogger partnership subject lines do not work.
Got it. So that's what I was going to say, because I'm sure they get pitched all the time.
Yes. And this is definitely a process. A lot of times they will test you. They'll see your first email and open it up and not reply to you, but they need to see that you actually are invested and you're going to follow up and email them again. A lot of times the majority of the brands won't answer until the second or third email. And it's not because they haven't seen it. It's because they really want to see that you're invested.
Interesting. Okay. Long email or short email?
So I actually have a pitch checklist that has 9 points to it that you kind of want to include. Normally, I would say you're looking for 2 to 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
You're not looking to tell your life story. You're
Okay.
going to really hone in on the audience, and you want to know something about that brand. So if you go to the brand's website and there's a tagline that you know is theirs, use that language when you're pitching about what you're going to put together. Now, the other thing about this is your pitch should not include a specific project or recipe that you're going to do. It should be general. So in other words, if I was going to pitch Bob's Red Mill and we're going into I would be pitching right now. First, you want to pitch 3 to 4 months in advance. So I wouldn't even be pitching necessary fall. I'd be thinking actually kind of Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So when I put together the pitch, I'm not going to tell him that I'd love to make my grandmother's award-winning apple pie with a strudel crust and cinnamon whatever. Because if they're not thinking apple pie, you're done.
Right.
But instead, if you had said, I would love to put together a comfort festive pie for Christmas or for the holidays, that's likely to get you in the door because now you can let them kind of tell you what direction they want to go. So if it's a new type of flour that just came out that's gluten-free or preservative, whatever, then you can kind of go that direction and let them lead you. They normally have their own ideas as far as a campaign of what they're trying to pitch because they know their products that are coming out.
Right.
So if you're general enough, it'll let them kind of see what you're thinking and give you a chance to actually put together a proposal and get on the phone with them.
I agree. Oh my God. If anytime I can get on the phone with a brand, I get the job.
Yes. Yes, because you can let them lead the conversation and find out exactly where, if you can ask the one question that I think always puts a brand at ease is when I say, okay, what are your KPIs?
Yes.
Key performance indicators. A lot of bloggers, we aren't thinking that way. We're just thinking like, okay, we got to get this. We got to get this. We need some income coming in. We want to get sponsors.
And they think I can make it pretty.
Yes, it's not. They have certain goals. Are they trying to get out a product? Are they looking for you to go to their website? Are they looking to grow their Instagram?
Yep.
You have to ask those types of questions so that they know you're really wanting to know about the brand and are going to be able to help them meet their goals, not yours.
Yes. In fact, again, I have mentioned this previously also, which is we love ourselves. We do. Because you know what? If I love myself, I will take care of myself and I will survive and my genes will get into the next generation. Like it's a survival, it's an evolutionary thing to put myself first, right? So this is also the same for brands. Brands love themselves. So anytime you can use their tagline, anytime you can put yourself in the position of this brand and give them back the messaging that they are trying to give to their customers, they will love you.
Yes.
So it becomes even less about you and more about, do you see what they're about? Do you understand that? And can you pitch it right back to them?
Right. Yes. Anytime you can show that you know what you're talking about when it comes to that brand, they are going to stop and listen. I've had so many brands that will come to me and say that they're looking for something in particular. And I'll be able to ask those questions to then drive them towards what they want. I had one brand in particular, it's a very big skin brand, came to me and asked, okay, we'd love for you to put up this Facebook video. No mention of money whatsoever. And I was like, So I emailed back and said, listen, I absolutely love Kristen Bell, and I think she's super cute. But in order to keep the integrity of my site to my readers and any previous brands I've worked with, I only work on compensated content. I'd love to send you a media kit and a proposal for your review. They came back, and then in my proposal, I was able to talk about the fact that I have 2 little girls, one that's really very pale, very Irish, and the other one who is very olive skin, and I need 2 different sunscreens in order to work for both girls, and how I love the company. It's the only sunscreen we use. That resulted in a 5-figure long-term contract with them.
Wow. That's terrific.
And they started only wanted me to post a Facebook video up. Because what happens is, as bloggers, when you've been around for a while, you end up on these PR companies' lists.
Yep.
And they'll just send a blast email. They have no idea if you have 3 million followers or 3.
Yep.
So you have to come back with them. I've had so many bloggers that have been around for a while that say, I get these pitches all the time, I'm just deleting them. I said, no, don't delete them.
Right.
Go back at them and show them who you are.
Right. Right. And assume everybody else is deleting them.
Yes. That's exactly right. And they do obviously have a campaign in mind. They just don't know how to get it out there.
Right. Do I put my rate in an email?
Love this question. No, you never put rates in an email. And I believe you don't create a rate sheet. I teach that you put together a proposal. And a proposal is a package price that they get one price for everything. Because I have sat in at multiple conferences when I've been speaking and listened to other brands that are speaking, and I have heard them say, no matter what price you pitch, I'm cutting you in half.
Ooh, okay.
So if you go to them with, let's say, $1,500 is your package deal, it gets them a blog post, social shares on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest. And then you also throw in, I would always recommend any form of video. So if you want to do Insta stories, an IGTV, or a Facebook Live, which is what I'm known for. And I have an idea of what I kind of charge for that in my own head. And you should kind of know what you're charging for everything. But for me, I'm charging a minimum of $500 for a Facebook Live. So when I tell them $1,500 and they come back at me and say, we can't quite do $1,500, but we can do $1,200, I say, okay, I'm going to take out the live broadcast. And now my blog post social shares just went from what I would normally say $1,000 went to $1,200. So I'm still getting what I'm worth.
Got it. But you are willing to say, nope, I'm not going to do this.
Right. Exactly.
Will they come back at you and say, well, we kind of want that, so okay, or no?
If they do come back, a lot of times, honestly, they don't come back. They won't come back and ask for it to go back in. They'll just say, yep, okay, because they feel like I gave up something without realizing that it's not the value that they're asking for. And if they try to cut me, like let's say I'm at $1,500 and they try to cut me to $750, I absolutely tell every one of my students, you have to have a hate rate. So it's a rate in which you would hate yourself if you took, because you know your value is not that low. And the content is going to be terrible because you're going to be annoyed at the fact that you're working for half what you're worth.
Yep. I think that's I think that's great. I love the hate rate idea.
Yes.
That's tremendous.
It makes it so much easier to kind of go into it knowing your prices. And a lot of people will say to me, well, I don't know how to price myself. Well, there's a site called socialbluebook.com. It's like Kelly Blue Book for cars, but instead it's going to measure your social influence. You put in your Instagram, Twitter, all of your social, and then you also can pop in your Google Analytics. So now you're able to get an idea on what you should be charging. And it's going to give you a range.
Yeah. Wait, say it again?
It'll give you a range of a rate. So that if you've been blogging for a while and you're like, nope, I'm worth more than that, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know your value's been around for a while. It's a great site for bloggers that really don't know how to price themselves.
That is great. I've never heard of it. That is great. Now, here's a question.
Yeah.
What if I just want to be an Instagram influencer and I don't want to blog? Or what is your thought about that?
That is totally fine. You are absolutely running the risk of Instagram shutting down and your business would shut down with it. So I always kind of try to say, don't build your business on someone else's platform.
Yes.
The only thing that you own is your website. You have your own website and your email address that you collect. So brands will absolutely pay for Instagram influencers. I would just, if you're going to create content, I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. I would try to make sure that I have something that is my own. Growing email addresses, offering product or services that you can grow an email through, using Instagram. I've seen tons of bloggers do that. And I think that that makes sense to me. Just being an influencer, you can absolutely do it and make money, but who knows for how long?
I agree with you completely. I say this all the time, which is it's really cheap to start a blog.
Yes.
So just own a piece of real estate on the internet.
Yes.
And over time, if you're, say, making content for these other platforms, just put it on your blog.
Right.
You know, like it's not hard, and just at least have a piece of real estate.
Yes. And I think that people get caught up because they think, oh my goodness, if I have Instagram and I have Twitter and I have Facebook and Pinterest and my blog, I have to create all this different content. But in reality, you can reuse that content. You can adjust it so that the image is Instagram friendly as compared to Pinterest friendly, and make it so that you are still using that same content. I think people are skewed with the idea that their Instagram audience is also their Facebook audience.
Yes.
Is totally often not true. And you have to remember that the algorithms don't let people see things. So people putting out content is fine to have it on multiple platforms the exact same, as long as you're using like the prescribed images that they say to use that's best for like Facebook and Instagram and then Pinterest. Because it's not necessarily going to get seen right away. And even if you have someone on Facebook that's also on Instagram, maybe they're only going to see the Instagram post, or maybe they'll see the Facebook post. But so cross-posting is, I would highly recommend. And I think it's fine to reuse content.
Yeah, and God forbid somebody sees the exact same photo of that cake twice.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. And remember, for people to like buy from a brand, usually they have to touch that brand like 7 times.
I was just going to say that. That's like my favorite stat to give because it's so true. I didn't realize how true it was until I had a client that has bought my course, part of my membership site, and has done one-on-one services with me. Write me an email back a year after my podcast was started and said, I didn't know you had a podcast. And I'm like, how is that possible? I talk about this all the time, but clearly I'm not. So putting it out there continuously, your audience does. They have to hear things at least 7 times. We're just so busy and things fly by and algorithms hide things. So continuing to use that content, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about right now, today, it is September 5th that we're recording this. If I were to step into the spot of the brand, what am I looking for today from influencers? Is it Instagram? Is it traffic to my site? Like what's most important to me right now as a brand?
If the brand is smart, they understand that beautiful photos that also give an authentic story that gets engagement matters more than anything else. I think a lot of brands will get caught up in the numbers and think, okay, I've got this Instagram influencer, it's got 3 million followers. But those 3 million followers may not interact the same way that other girl with 3,000 followers may interact and engage because of the algorithms and the way that things change. So it's more about the authentic story and the engagement that blogger or influencer is getting. I would definitely say that bloggers absolutely need to have an Instagram presence. You need to have a business account. If you want to work with a brand, you need to have business accounts, not so they can track you, but so that you can provide them with the data to be able to say, I was worth it. I got you this many impressions and this many pieces of engagement. You have to be able to report that to them. And on Facebook, if you don't have a business account, you're promoting, you are breaking all sorts of Facebook rules.
Yes, that is true. But like, for example, do brands want clicks to their site? Do they want people, like we've done this relatively recently where a brand was running a contest and they want people to come, see what you're saying and then go enter their contest. Or are brands predominantly just looking for kind of warm fuzzies?
So the smart ones are understanding that if you're paying for a sponsored post, it's different than an affiliate program, because as a sponsored post, it's about providing your influence. It's not about selling a product. For affiliate marketing, you need to sell a product in order to make money off of that, which means you need to rely on their website to actually sell. For sponsored post, I might promote let's say a salad dressing, and they're going to ask me to link to their website. If that salad dressing company thinks that anyone is going to buy a salad dressing from their website, they're out of their mind.
Right.
That's just not what we do. We are influencing them to remember that the next time they go into the grocery store, Jenny was talking about that salad dressing. Let me pick up that salad dressing. So it's not trackable in the sense that clicks and buys are trackable. And when a brand understands that that is the purpose of a sponsored post, that's when the relationship works well. When they can see that there's engagement, that's how they're measuring it. They're not measuring it based on click-throughs. And engagement, I mean like comments, likes, shares, any of that kind of things, not necessary clicks and purchases.
Got it. Now, do you recommend that the influencer proactively send analytics back to the brand?
Yes. So inside of my course, Pitch Perfect Pro, I actually teach exactly what to provide them with. The reason I started my course was because what I found worked really well for me is I could, in a network, when I used to work in the networks, it was one and done. I never had contact with that PR company, but my sponsor income started just growing and filling up my editorial calendar because I was getting long-term contracts.
Yes.
I would work with them once, and then I would provide them with my data on a silver platter tied in a bow, and they would say, "Oh my God, you just did my work for me," and had delivered exactly what we were looking for, or whatever it might be. Yes, let's talk about 3 posts, or let's talk about 6, whatever it might be, which I would then, and that's what I teach, honestly. Like, Pitch Perfect Pro isn't about just getting a one sponsored post with a brand. It's about creating a long-term relationship with a brand so that you're not looking at next month going, okay, what income do I have coming in? We have to pay this bill. We have this bill. My husband knows I'm spending all this time on my computer. Am I actually making money? I have these expenses, whatever it might be. I remember that feeling of looking at it and going, okay, what's coming in next month? Oh, I have no idea. Fabulous.
Right. And I would argue that your influence, your authority with that brand increases for your audience the more you are in a relationship with that brand.
Yes, because they see the authenticity then. They see that relationship that you're continuing to partner with them. Yes. Absolutely.
So in terms of scaling do you think it's easier also? One thing that is difficult about sponsored content is you're always starting over. You have a new project and like, okay, what's the new recipe, that kind of thing. Do you have any strategies for how to think through your process of doing sponsored posts so that you're not necessarily starting at the way beginning again?
So I think that it really comes down to like trying to find that rock content of what your readers are coming to you for. Knowing and doing your research ahead of time. Like I know you have had interviews with people about SEO. I think doing your research and knowing what you're ranking for is so important, so that if you're ranking for comfort food and it's a particular type of comfort food, keeping that brand, if you have 3 posts with them within that form of those keywords, is going to benefit them and you. It's really, when you create content, it's about weaving a spider web. It's not about shooting them all different directions that they have no idea what they're coming to you for. It's about keeping them on your site. I hear from so many people, oh, I don't know my audience. They just come from Pinterest because they're looking for a recipe. Okay, but let's have other, pieces, other recipes, side dishes or salads or something that can go with that recipe, that you're weaving that spider web around that audience member to be like, oh, I really like this. This is the right type of food for me. This is the way I want to be eating, whatever it might be.
Oh, I like that. So you're therefore thinking about creating cool content for this brand, but also how will this impact your authority, your SEO, your traffic, all of that?
Yes.
I think that is so right on. Okay, here's one last question, and then we'll wrap up, which is one thing that I have heard from people who work at these influencer networks and stuff like that is that bloggers can be irresponsible when creating content.
Yes. And those honestly are the bloggers that ruin it for many of us. Not the ones that take a bag of granola, the ones that don't follow through and
don't deliver.
Yes, you can't be doing this. If you are going to want to get paid, you need to run it like a business. And you can't miss deadlines and miss part of the deliverables that you're supposed to be given to that brand if you've signed a contract. Because really, you have entered into a legal transaction with them, and they can say, listen, you didn't deliver this, you're not getting paid. And I think when we get into the mindset of thinking, okay, I'm a business, I need to make sure that if I'm agreeing to a certain deadline, that I can deliver that. Now, there are definitely some times where I think the networks can kind of be a little pushy with the way that they want things done. And I also think that sometimes because the network is the middleman, they'll go back to the brand, then come back to you. You can end up 6 edits in, and all of a sudden, the brand decides that that's not what they wanted in the first place, and you're redoing the entire post. So standing up for yourself, being, making sense of what they're trying to ask you. I've had some clients tell me, they told me this date, and then they turned around and because of their edits, turned around and wanted it the next day. I had that happen with me. They turned around and it was like Black Friday or over Thanksgiving. They wanted it the next day. Meanwhile, they had been sitting on it for 2 months and just gave me the edits and expected it in 24 hours over a holiday.
Right.
So there's definitely knowing how to treat yourself like a business, to deliver what you can when it's expected, and then to stand up for yourself when you need to. I like that. Important.
And don't you think, though, that if you are responsible and you do deliver and you do turn things in on time and you do have a good attitude, that could really work in your favor? Because you can assume there will be other bloggers. A lot of times, like a brand will do a campaign and they'll reach out to 10 bloggers who are all creating content for them. And if you are the blogger that delivers, they will come back to you.
Oh, yeah. And that's so true, not even just with the networks, but also with PR companies, because PR companies don't represent normally one brand. They represent multiple. So if you fit into multiple brands, they'll go to you every single time because of one relationship that you built with one PR agent.
Right. And because they know that you make them look good.
Yes, exactly right.
And that they don't have to track you down.
Right.
So Jenny, this has been so wonderful. Will you talk about your course? Because, how people can learn more from you.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I actually offer a masterclass, which will walk you through how to attract your dream sponsors without selling out. We go through just some of the things that you definitely need to avoid and being able to put it into practice. My course, Pitch Perfect Pro, gives you step by step. As you can tell, I'm very much a teacher.
Yes.
You do not skip steps with me. You have to go from A to Z and nothing skipping in between. And it also provides you with absolutely everything you would need. So let's say, for example, a lot of questions, people say, oh, proposal, your package idea, I love it. Inside Pitch Perfect Pro, because I'm lifestyle, I've done everything. I've done travel, I've done the vacuum, everything. So my proposals are all in there so that you can see exactly what I do, and then you're able to actually download it and you can edit it so that you can make it your own. My follow-up procedure that I use, I have a culmination document that I teach all my students to do. Those are all in there. Pretty much every little thing that you need. Plus, I also have a closed Facebook group that we use for any specific questions that come up. So if you're running into something with a brand, you're like, oh, I don't know how to handle this. They're asking for rights for the photos. What do I do? Right. That is a question I think we get asked once a month easily.
Yes.
And I always say double your rates.
Yes.
So, yeah, and there's that access to me and my team so that we can make sure that you're getting what you deserve.
Oh, Jenny. Okay. So tell me how people can find you.
Yeah. So you can find me at JennyMelrose.com. My pitch checklist is actually right on the homepage. As soon as you drop in there, it's a cheat sheet that's going to tell you exactly what needs to be inside your pitch. You can also find me on my podcast, Influencer Entrepreneurs. If you go into iTunes and you just search Jenny Melrose, it'll pop as well. And I also do weekly free training on my Jenny Melrose Facebook page so that you can get your questions answered live with me.
Awesome. Well, Jenny, thank you so much. I have learned, you are a natural teacher. I have learned so much.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
If you're enjoying the Blogger Genius podcast, please head on over to iTunes and rate us. Also, if you have not yet subscribed, do that because that way you won't miss a new episode. And if you guys have any ideas for guests that you want, topics you want me to cover, I love hearing from you. Email me, Jillian@MiloTree.com.